Good morning. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Merkur Red Army Seagull 1963. This watch is available from merkurwatch.com for $229 US. You can use the discount code WatchReview4K to get $40 US discount off that price. So firstly, let's look at the travel case that the Seagull 1963 comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the Seagull 1963 comes in this Merkur branded travel case, which has a hard shell in a carbon fibre effect. Very nicely executed, good quality and also aesthetically pleasing. Has a Merkur branded rubber tag to the zip, and inside is very well finished. Elasticated pocket to house the owner's instruction manual and other documents, and also in the base it has a foam cutout panel which does a very good job of protecting the watch in shipping. So I think this is a credible alternative to using a cardboard or plastic watch box. I like the use of a travel case as an alternative, and I think it's very aesthetically pleasing. You also get this owner's instruction manual, which is very comprehensive, and it also details the terms and conditions of the 12-month international guarantee, which is very reassuring. You also get these cards. This Merkur card details the other brands which are under the Merkur brand ownership. And you get a booklet from Infinite Time, which is a watch dealer from Merkur. And lastly, you get this competition card, which invites you to play games to win cash prizes. One thing I really like, and I would like to see other watch brands include with their watches, is a time grapher printout for the watch. So this Seagull 1963 uses the caliber ST1901 Seagull movement, and as you can see, it has been regulated to +9 seconds per day, which is very impressive. Lastly, one also gets these tags, and it's very nice attention to detail, very good presentation, and I like the use of the travel case as I've discussed. So with regards to this piece, this is the Seagull 1963. It is an homage to the first Chinese Air Force watch, which was a military issued piece known as the D304, made in 1963. And homages to that first military issued watch, the D304, have become known as the Seagull 1963 because they use Seagull movements. This uses the Seagull caliber ST1901, and the original D304 was made in 1963, hence the name Seagull 1963. So this version of that Chinese Air Force D304 is the Merkur Red Army Seagull 1963. Now, the notable difference between this and other homages is the use of gilt dolphin hands on the dial rather than blued hands, and I find them to be more aesthetically pleasing. With regards to specification, it's a 38mm case diameter. It has a 46.5mm lug-to-lug measurement, 15mm thickness including the domed acrylic crystal, and it has an 18mm lug width. So the 18mm strap is parallel, it's straight from the lugs down to the solid stainless steel buckle and tang, and I think it is appropriate. I think the 18mm lug width perfectly balances the 38mm head of the piece. So it does remain faithful to the original 1963 D304 watch. It's the same proportions, the same dimensions. 38mm case with an 18mm lug width were the original sizes of the D304. I really like the applied gilt indices and also the large Arabic numerals at 12 and 6 o'clock, very true to the original D304. As I've discussed, I like the gilt dolphin hands, which are beautifully finished, and they contrast very well with the red second hand. With regards to the chronograph function, the top pusher activates the chronograph. As you can see, the red second hand begins to sweep around the dial. One can stop the chronograph again by pressing the top pusher, and one presses the bottom pusher to activate the flyback complication. As you can see, the red second hand then flies back to the 12 o'clock index on the dial. Now, nice firm resistance, good positive click to both the stop-start pusher and also the flyback reset pusher, and I really like the mechanism. I like the feeling of the pushers. They feel like a good, solid, tight fit in the case. With regards to the coin edge solid 316L grade stainless steel crown, it's a push-pull crown because this is a manual wind movement. The Seagull caliber ST1901 is a column wheel chronograph, so it wouldn't be appropriate to have a screw down crown on a piece which is manually wound. And I really like it. I think the execution of it is good. It feels silky smooth to manually wind the piece. to its maximum 41-hour power reserve. Nice finishing to it, and one can feel the tension gradually building up in the mainspring of the column wheel chronograph movement, so it's very satisfying to manually wind it. With regards to the case finishing, mirror polish to the bezel, the tops of the lugs, the flanks of the case and also the underside. The quality of the finishing is absolutely flawless. No imperfections whatsoever. Very nice mirror polishing even in between the lugs, which is an area that often watch brands neglect as a cost-cutting measure. The quality of the finishing on the stainless steel pushers is excellent, as is the signed stainless steel crown. Now with regards to the strap, it's got a good quality canvas strap. Stitching is flawless throughout. Mandarin, as you can see on the exterior, and it's complemented by a solid stainless steel buckle and tang, nice heavy gauge of metal, and also laser engraved with the star for the Red Army symbol. Two sliding keepers on the canvas strap, and it's very soft and supple despite being a thick canvas strap. I think it's going to be durable but also comfortable and not going to require any breaking in period. With regards to the case back, it's stainless steel, screw down case back, provides an effective hermetic seal to 30 meters of water resistance, and it is glazed with a mineral crystal which shows off the Seagull caliber ST1901 movement to good effect. Now the movement is my favourite aspect of the watch. As you can see, it's beautifully finished and decorated with blued screws, milled stripes on the bridges, and it's just an absolute pleasure to look at the 21 jewel movement. I really like looking at the movement as one activates the chronograph complication and resets the fly graph. It's really nice to observe. So it's a very well finished, well built, good, reliable, solid workhorse column wheel chronograph movement. So the piece weighs 58 grams, it does lack heft, it feels weightless on the wrist, and therefore it's very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. The only thing I will say is at 38mm with an 18mm lug width, if you're a collector with a larger wrist of 7 to 8 inches, you may miss the lack of heft and you would prefer a piece with more wrist presence. So I'll give you a wrist shot and you can see how it fits on my 8-inch wrist. Now personally I prefer large pieces and I like wrist presence and heft, so I like watches to weigh 150 grams on a bracelet, and I also like watches to be 40mm, but this does wear surprisingly with some wrist presence even though it's a 38mm. Now I'm pleased to report that the canvas strap that you're looking at does indeed fit my 8-inch wrist, and that is a surprise. As you'll know from my previous reviews, it's often the case that straps are just a fraction too short, but if you have a large 7 to 8-inch wrist, this canvas strap will fit your wrist with no problem at all. The end of the strap is a good snug fit in the keepers, as you can see, and I can engage the two keepers in the end of the strap, so it does fit up to an 8-inch wrist with no problems whatsoever. It's the perfect length for an 8-inch wrist. Now with regards to the comfort, the feel good factor is outstanding, the comfort level is outstanding. Due to the curved profile of the lug, as you can see, the case wraps around the wrist very well. Very snug fit, even though it's 15mm thick, it will easily fit underneath a shirt cuff if you're going to wear it as a daily wear piece underneath business shirts. The 46.5mm lug-to-lug measurement is relatively short, so although it's a tall piece, it really will fit easily under shirt cuffs, and you'll find it to be incredibly comfortable due to the flat mineral crystal in the screw-down exhibition case back. Very aesthetically pleasing piece. I like the patina tone of the dial, and I like the contrast between the red second hand, which sweeps around the dial when one activates the chronograph, as you can see, and the gilt dolphin hands. The gilt hands on the subdials also complements the gilt applied indices, and I just think that it's a very well executed dial layout which remains true to the original military issued D304 piece from 1963. This is one of the better looking Seagull 1963 versions I've seen, and I actually prefer the dolphin hands to the blued hands which are often used on the Seagull 1963. So absolute pleasure to look at the red sweeping second hand, stopping the chronograph complication as you can see, and then pressing the bottom pusher to activate the flyback. So it all works perfectly. So I'll talk you through the movement because it's one of my favourite aspects of this watch, and I think it's a good reason to purchase this watch alone. This Seagull 1963 uses the Seagull caliber ST1901, so I'll explain the history where that comes from. Originally this movement was made in Switzerland by Venus. In the 1950s there were three popular movement makers, Venus, Valjoux and Lemania. So in the 1950s, Venus decided they wanted to invest in developing new movements because they had been producing this Venus caliber 175 during the 1950s, and they wanted to update with other movements. So in order to raise the capital to develop new movements, Venus decided to sell off their machinery, and they sold off the machinery to China to produce the Venus caliber 175. So they sold the machinery to Tianjin Watch Company in the 1960s, and Tianjin Watch Company began to produce this movement, which has now become known as the Seagull 1963. The actual name of it is the Seagull caliber ST1901. So the caliber ST1901 is a copy of the Venus caliber 175. The only difference is the original Venus caliber 175 from the 1950s had 19 joules. The Seagull version you're looking at here has 21 joules, so they added an extra 2 joules. But the architecture and the design of the movement is the same. Seagull did make some improvements to the finishing and build quality, and as you can see, this one is beautifully executed. It has nice blued screws for decoration and milled stripes on the bridges. The quality of this Seagull caliber ST1901 is outstanding, and I would have no qualms whatsoever with regards to its reliability. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement, and bearing in mind that the design has been used since the 1950s by Venus in the caliber 175, it's a very reliable, solid movement. So I like it. It's a good column wheel chronograph, and my favourite aspect of it is the use of a swan neck regulator, which means that one can regulate the movement to very accurate limits. And as you've seen with the time grapher printout, this one is regulated using that swan neck regulator. If you look at it here closely, you can see it to plus 9 seconds per day, which is outstanding. I like the use of the mineral crystal in the exhibition case back, showing off that movement, because it is really the most interesting aspect of the piece. So lastly, I'll surmise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch on my channel, the watch should meet 2 criteria. The watch should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So the price of this watch is $229 from merkurwatch.com. You can use the discount code WatchReview4K to get $40 off. So applying that discount, yes, I consider it to be excellent quality, and yes, I consider it to be excellent value. The build quality, quality control, materials, and also the finishing throughout is outstanding. No flaws whatsoever. The solid stainless steel crown is well executed, absolute pleasure to manually wind the movement to 41 hours of its power reserve, and really to get a time grapher printout with a watch proving that it's been regulated to plus 9 seconds per day is very reassuring, as is the 12-month international guarantee. Good looking watch, interesting provenance behind the watch, and also, as I've discussed, it's worth purchasing for the movement alone. It's an absolute delight to look at the Seagull caliber ST1901. So highly collectible piece, and the Seagull 1963 does have a cult following globally with collectors. Now, there are various versions of it, and one could argue that the negative is the acrylic crystal isn't particularly scratch resistant. It's a soft material. But however, if you purchase Polywatch, you can easily polish out scuffs and scratches to the acrylic domed crystal, and I personally prefer the acrylic domed crystal version to the sapphire crystal version because it's more true to the original and it does give it a vintage aesthetic. The original Chinese Air Force D304 from 1963 used an acrylic crystal. It predated the use of sapphire crystal. So I think it remains truer to the original to have the acrylic rather than sapphire. It does have mineral crystal in the exhibition case back. So overall, I think this is the correct specification. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for your consideration. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. So I hope you've liked my review of the Merkur Red Army Seagull 1963. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.